Now, you've talked about competing currencies before. Do you anticipate introducing a bill at some point? This is actually coming from Deb in Missouri. She's asking if you would introduce a bill that would allow for competing currencies.
Yeah, and I imagine I can't keep up with all the bills, but in the past I have, and I probably will get around to it if I haven't done it, and that is to make it legal for you to use gold and silver coins, and it could, instead of closing the Fed down in one day, which makes people a little bit nervous, just say, well, you have the right to opt out today. Like I said before, the government comes knocking on your door if you want to opt out of the system. But in order to do that, you have to repeal the legal tender laws. You have to get rid of taxes on silver and gold coins. Why? How can money be money if you go and buy a coin that you get taxed on it, and then if you sell the coin or use it, you have to pay capital gains tax on it. So they don't want us to think of a precious metal as money.
Let's talk about ending the Federal Reserve and what it would take to make that happen. Obviously, I think that an audit is a good first step. You've got a lot of momentum behind this bill. It's really picking up steam. Like I said, I think it's a good first step in getting rid of the Federal Reserve System by introducing transparency. Do you see this as a general first step to the abolishment of the Fed, like your other bill? I believe it's 833.
Yeah, it would be nice if the whole country woke up and the Congress woke up and for philosophic and constitutional reasons decided, oh yeah, this was our mistake and we should do something differently. That's not going to happen. I think conditions will get a lot worse. And if we have more evidence to show what they have been up to, then moving into allowing a competing currency, I think would be much more likely. Mm-hmm. And then if that happens, then you have total chaos. The Fed would just self-destruct because people would quit using the money.
So we would have to introduce competing currencies and let the market determine. For instance, if we introduce a silver-backed currency, that's printed out of the U.S. Treasury, it becomes a U.S. note backed by the silver and gold. Let the market determine. The
market would have to help us determine the so-called price or the exchanges, because first gold is $900 today, but there's so many dollars that are unaccounted for. It might have to be into the thousands, but you really don't know. The market would have to help adjust that. But even to get it fixed again, you'd have to have a government that would absolutely promise to live within its means, balance the budget, give up the warfare state, give up the welfare state, and not print money anymore, which, that's just a lot more than we can anticipate here, for quite a while. And that's why I keep saying that people have to have the option of getting out of the system and let time take care of it.
Let's see. I'm getting a lot of questions coming in here. I've got Carrie from San Diego. She's saying, how much support is there in Congress for H.R. 1207? What is the word in the halls of Congress concerning the bill?
Well, it's getting better all the time. Believe it or not, a lot more people outside of Washington have heard about this than inside, but that's the way the system works. We had a couple weeks break at Easter, and when it came back, I think we immediately had like 17 or 18 people sign up in one day, which means that the people at home are doing their job. Because I had one member come up and he says, I had 4 town hall meetings while I was there, and every single meeting there were 3 or 4 people wanting to know whether he was going to support 1207. Well, he really, he had a general idea about it, but politically, it was to his benefit. If the people are stirring out there, in this sense, pressure from the people it's pretty important. Most of the time, though, over the years, the pressure from the people has always been to spend more money and print more money and not have to tax people and keep doing this. So, no, I think it's the momentum is good, and I think it's the right step. Everybody, if you had a vote today, in the Congress on more transparency of TARP funds or the Federal Reserve, I cannot imagine anybody voting against transparency. And that's all we're talking about, because Barney Frank is sympathetic. I know a lot of people don't like him and all this, but he's sympathetic on principle to knowing what the Fed is doing, so I work with him on that. The one thing is he doesn't agree with me on monetary policy. He sort of likes Keynesian economics, but he just happens to agree that we should look into it. Now, there are populist Democrats, and there's some in Texas. They like it because they don't like the Fed at all, but they want the Congress to be the inflationary people. Let Congress do it all, and they're not strong believers in gold and silver. So there's different reasons, but to get this bill passed, we had to bring them all together. So I have liberals and populists and conservatives and libertarians. I'm getting a bunch of people now supporting this just on the principle that government deserves to be transparent to the people.
When Aaron Russo was alive, we would have conversations, and I would say, Aaron, what steps do we need to take to get this country back on track? And he always said, Gary, we need to audit the gold in Fort Knox. Do you think there's value in finding out how much gold, where's the gold in Fort Knox?
Yes, and if I had to guess, I would lean 60 to 40 that it's probably there. But 40% question is a big deal, and there hasn't really been a true audit. I was on the Gold Commission in the early 1980s, and there were 17 members, and I brought up the subject. We need we're studying gold and gold in the monetary system. We ought to, have a thorough audit and find out if the gold is really there. And we were 15 that voted against it, and 2 of us voted for the audit, so it never got anywhere. So we should know, and the shenanigans that could go on, I mean, they could take it out, they could sell it, they could loan it, and all these kind of things have been doing over these last 10 years to keep the price of gold from going up. Our gold might have been the part of the vehicle that they were using. So if we get serious about this has to happen. We ought to be more serious, about what should be done with the gold at the IMF. They're talking about selling more and maybe all of it and giving the proceeds to the poor countries of the world, which means the dictators of those poor countries would end up getting it. But the gold should just be returned to the host countries. I mean, we put the largest percentage in. It should come back to, us, and it's pretty hard to give it back to the people they took it from. But I think since they don't believe in gold, we'd all be better off if the gold was in the hands of the people. Mm-hmm. So I'd sell it. I'd sell the IMF gold, and under today's circumstances, I'd let Treasury sell it because they're not going to have a sound gold standard any longer. I'd just as soon, allow the gold standard to develop in the marketplace, and that's a way to do it also.
Some people have raised a concern that by advocating an end to the Fed, we may be the message itself could be co-opted by the international bankers by saying, okay, we'll end the Fed, but then we're going to give you the World Bank in its place, or we'll give you the IMF in its place. What do you think about that?
Well, they might, but I hope we can answer that argument. If we get rid of one thing and you give us something 10 times worse, how is that going to be a solution? Right. If the power to create money out of thin air and manipulate the economy is bad when the United States does it, what makes anybody think it's going to be a lot better if we just turn it over to another secretive body, which is under the United Nations?